if you ever wanted to shoot a whole project on anamorphic lenses, then thanks to SIRUI's latest release, which is their third affordable anamorphic lens, and it happens to be the 24mm f2.8, then you're finally going to be able to cover all the most important focal lengths. So this lens is the third lens in the lineup of already really great anamorphic lenses that SIRUI previously released. The first focal length that they released was the 50mm f1.8. Then after that they released the 35mm f1.8. And now this lens, the 24mm, I think completes a nice set of, again, affordable, also small and really practical to use anamorphic lenses. So this lens is a 1.33 times anamorphic squeeze aspect ratio lens, which means that if you're shooting on a standard 16:9 image sensor camera and you're shooting with this lens, then afterwards in post-production, when you de-squeeze that image, you're going to end up with that 2.4:1 widescreen aspect ratio. So this is kind of a nice cinema scope. Now, considering that this is a 24mm anamorphic lens with, again, a 1.33 horizontal aspect ratio squeeze, what that essentially means is that if you were to compare this to a spherical lens, it kind of gives you an equal field of view to like an 18mm lens. So if you're wondering just how wide it is, again, throw in an 18mm lens onto any of your cameras and kind of you can compare and you'll get that same field of view. Of course, this lens comes with different lens mounts for different mirrorless cameras, so your crop factor is really going to be dependent on the kind of camera that you're going to pair this with. When you're getting this lens, you'll be able to choose from one of the 5 different lens mounts, which is for either Sony E mount, Canon EF M mount, Nikon Z mount, or for example you can get the Fujifilm X mount. Also, the one that I have up here is the Micro Four Thirds mount, which is again going to be available for your Blackmagic cameras, Z cameras, or Olympus cameras. This lens has a max aperture of f2.8 and a minimum of f16. And it's a smooth rotating aperture ring, which makes this a perfect lens for video work. The focus ring is also nice and smooth, and it gives you a really good 190 degrees of basically rotation, which means that, that if you want to be able to dial in and get a perfect focus on your subject, then again you'll be able to do that because it gives you a lot of space. Now, comparing this lens to most other anamorphic lenses, there's actually 3 things that I think really makes this lens, just like the other 2 previous lenses from SIRUI, stand out. And those 3 things are, obviously, the first one is the price. You're just not going to be able to find another reliable anamorphic lens for a lower price. The next thing is the image quality that you're going to get with this lens. It gives you those typical anamorphic characteristics, gives you that oval bokeh, even though I noticed that compared to the other 2 lenses from SIRUI, the 24mm, the bokeh is not as oval as it is with their other 2 lenses, but it's still there. It also gives you that beautiful horizontal blue lens flare that is usually associated with an anamorphic lens look. And the last thing is that these lenses, again, even though they're actual anamorphic lenses, they're very small. Now, this lens is actually slightly bigger than the 35mm, which was even, again, a little bit bigger than their 50mm lens. And that's because each of these lenses are actually designed from scratch and built differently. So this one actually has 13 elements and 10 groups. It's built out of solid aluminum, beautifully, built, very solid and durable lens. Again, like I said, very smooth turning focus and aperture rings. It's just a really beautiful lens, and again gives you those, the nice image quality, gives you a nice sharp image, gives you those anamorphic characteristics, yet it does it all in a really small compact size. Another thing that I really love about this lens, which is again identical to the other 2 lenses from SIRUI, is just how the glass elements react when they interact with the different light that might be hitting the lens at different angles. And if you get the light just at the right angle, you're gonna get these beautiful blooming kind of effects and flares that I think look very organic. Yet at the same time, like I said, the lens is actually very sharp. Even when I've been shooting with this lens wide open, I think it is the sharpest anamorphic lens I've ever shot with. Personally, I am happy that finally I have a nice complete set of affordable and compact anamorphic lenses that I can finally use on a paid project where I might need to have access to different focal lengths. I think the 24 combined with the previous 35 and the 50mm lenses really gives you that most used focal lengths that you're going to need. Now, of course, if SIRUI is listening, if you guys are considering maybe working on another lens, personally, I think for me, more important would be to get an even longer focal length, maybe like an 85mm. Anyways, these are my thoughts on SIRUI's latest release, which is their 24mm lens. And I think if you're a filmmaker who's maybe a little bit curious, maybe you want to give anamorphic lenses a try, then I think there hasn't been a better time than right now to get into it, because again, it's so readily available and affordable, especially when you consider that you can get this lens now and the other two lenses and get a nice complete set. So for all the information about where you can get this lens and the other lenses, as always, check out my website at tomantosfilms.com, or just follow the links in the description of this video. My name is Tom Antos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.